And we are live. Welcome everyone to the Inner Geekdom. Today we are going to be discussing the first season of Avatar: The Last Airbender to go along with us getting ready for our tabletop campaign that will be starting next month under the brand of Artificer Alley. We actually have two people. Somebody, we're getting some pushback from you if you were playing it.
You good?
Yep, we're good. All right.
Your stream is also titled Most Anticipated Movies of 2024.
It happens. Oh well, but it'll be all right. I can change that later. But yeah, we are going to be discussing the first season of Avatar: The Last Airbender, and we have two people that this is their first time even watching it whatsoever, with Hinehime and Pancake. So we're going to go around and introduce everyone, and then we will be able to start talking about it. So Pancake, why don't you give us an introduction of who you are, and if there's anything you want people to know about you, where are you at with this series and everything?
Howdy, I'm Pancake. Minus the boring spiel of, hey, I stream, go follow me. I've recently, as of literally yesterday, just wrapped up season 1 of Avatar. So, very, very excited to definitely spiel about it on this stream. With like-minded folk.
And, well, did you already tell them where they can find you, where you're streaming at?
Yeah, I stream on Twitch under Pancake1_5. I can also drop it in the chat later, but that's a later thing.
That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. All right. Then we are going over to Justice, because you're the one that is right next to him up here. Where are you at with Avatar? And tell us a little something about yourself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Justice. I have seen all of Avatar, love it, grew up on it. It was one of my comfort shows. Just amazing characters, an amazing world, and so anything I can, wrap myself in when it comes to Avatar, I will. So I signed on this immediately.
Completely understandable. Okay, Hinehime, we can't see you, but you are here.
Hi, I do have a link tree in my account bio, but as of right now, I'm not doing much else besides streaming with Artificer Alley. And this is my first go around with the show. I had seen all of the memes and, clips from the show, but I didn't really get into it growing up. So a couple of months ago was the first time I'd actually seen it.
Nice. And are you doing anything online currently? Are you streaming anything, or what is your current where going forward? What are you planning on kind of focusing on for online content?
Right now, I'm not really doing much of anything. I've mostly just planned to stay streaming with y'all for the game, and then games following that.
Awesome. And we also we don't have an icon for him right here at the moment, but Ben from Artificer Alley is here.
Well, hello everyone. It's my first time ever here. I am the founder and CEO of Artificer Alley. Our whole spiel is that we want to equip people to tell the stories they want to tell, and our favorite medium for that is tabletop gaming. And since I found a lot of people have a lot of love for Avatar: The Last Airbender, Rune came to me and was like, hey, let's check out this system. Let's see how this works. And so to put my 2 cents in, share my support, here we are.
Yep, so we are only going to be discussing Season 1 today because we have 2 people that is as far as they are into the series, which is really interesting because this is one that a lot of people already know. So having 2 people that are fresh to the series gives like really new eyes to something that's been around for quite some time. So, so Pancake, initial impressions. Yes. How are you going on your Avatar journey so far? How's it feeling to you?
I mean, the brutally honest answer, when I first started, it started out like real slow. It didn't really rope me in. I mean, I was intrigued by the lore because I've seen the clips around online, but like the first episode was kind of slow until like the end, where it really like was like, oh, okay, maybe there is some actual story developing here instead of just I found a kid in an iceberg.
You bring up a really good point that a lot of people say with this series, though, is that it starts out a little bit almost too goofy and starts to really get its flavor about like midway to the later halves of season one. Like everyone else, how do you feel about that? Did you kind of have a similar feeling when you were first getting into it? Maybe the first few episodes being like a little more childlike. I mean, it's a kid's show, but you get what I'm saying.
Well, when I first started getting into it just a couple months ago, I noticed that it did start off really slow, but I also had in my adulthood was when like Steven Universe and stuff came out. So I go by this like the rule set when you go to start a kids show, which is just get through the first like couple of episodes, and after that it's usually smooth sailing. I found it to be really relaxing personally, but it was definitely on that goofier side.
Yeah, it is. It is a lot of people's comfort show, like Justice was saying. I mean, I think that is uh, like an interesting aspect because I do know that this is one that people repeat watch like a lot.
I definitely get that vibe from it. It feels very comforting whenever I started it.
So, like with the vibe, I will say there's a lot of theming that goes along with Avatar that you see the first little bit of it and you're like, oh, this is probably kind of a little too kiddie for me. But then they start to get into some topics. You know, you're dealing with a world that's had a war for the past 100 years. You're dealing with, you know, like these people that have had these hardships, but then a character that's coming into the world where he didn't want even the responsibilities of being the Avatar. You know, he just wants to be a preteen kid that's just enjoying life. So it's a really interesting aspect of him not having have suffered that 100 years of history and kind of it all coming to him all at once. So did you guys has anyone really, you know, thought on that kind of aspect of this series? Like, is that something that you guys think of when you think about Avatar?
I really did. I noticed a lot. I feel bad for Aang during season one because when you watch it, you notice that he is really goofy and all that stuff. And a lot of people want him to be more serious. And all I can think about is that he's 12. This kid's only 12 years old.
Yep.
And it's going to be hard for him to settle into that kind of responsibility. He wasn't even supposed to know about being the Avatar until he was 16.
Exactly. So how does everyone else feel like about that side of the show? Like, you know, Aang being someone that is, you know, wanting to be more childish and has this responsibility thrust on him.
It's very much a show of just like children that were having to deal with heavy topics and growing up quicker than they probably should have been. And so like dealing with that, and then you have the aspect of the show of having heavier topics. It's a very interesting dynamic, I think. It's definitely seeing those kids, like Aang's a perfect example, you know, of seeing those kids and having to grow up.
Yeah.
Essentially, they can grow up quicker.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of like, you know, levels of responsibility that these, you know, young kids are having to live up to. Ben, how do you like feel about that aspect of the show of like that responsibility being thrust on people at such a young age?
Well, one thing we do see with Aang is we know he's a nomad. We know that his social circle is quite small at age of 12. Now, that being said, you do hear later that he had friends in each nation. But when we talk about him being a child and him having to accept responsibility, he was already a responsible kid, but that was all he knew. And so he had this was his first real take of, oh, I have to be responsible. I don't know what that's like because this is all I know, this is all I am. And he lacked mentorship in that role. And which was one reason I believe traditionally they waited till they were older.
Mhm.
But it was interesting to see when I think it was episode 3 when it does flashbacks to his life at the Southern Air Temple. Seeing what life was like for him before they spilled that he was the Avatar, and after, And all that happened was they told him 4 words: "You are the Avatar." And suddenly his entire normal was flipped upside down. He couldn't even play with his friends anymore because it wouldn't be fair.
Yep.
And so, of course, he understood that he had to be a force in the world, but he was yet to even come into his own as a person. And so you really see that struggle throughout season 1, and as you continue to watch the series, as he begins to accept that responsibility while finding himself as well.
Yeah, definitely. So does anyone have any more thoughts that they want to put forth now just on Aang? Because I think that it'd be like, I think it's really important because this is such a character-driven show that we just kind of like take time to kind of give our thoughts on each of like the main cast of characters. Does anyone have any other thoughts on Aang? Because we can't go all the way to the end of season 1, so there's a lot of development by that time through him.
I mean, I do want to point out more of just like how, like you could tell like the internal struggle, the amount of times Aang has just like broken down,
Yeah.
just like randomly, just of him just being like, I can't do this anymore. It's like heartbreaking because it's like he's 12. You don't expect a 12-year-old to save the world after 100 years of war, but
Right.
it's kind of like a thing he has to step up to. He doesn't want to, but you have to.
I mean, on top of that, you have the initial pushback from everybody who wasn't aware that he had been like frozen in time for 100 years. There was a lot of resentment from some of the older generation towards him for him not stepping up earlier. You see it more closely with like the fishermen and how he's like, "Hey, where have you been?" And
Yeah.
I felt that was super. I just felt like it was really unfair because again, he's still just 12.
Or him having to deal with like the guilt that he feels, like
Yeah.
especially when he, go to the air temple and he sees what happened, like that guilt that he's now having to carry,
Yeah.
and process, and not having his people to lean on to process that.
Well, and so one thing that's really like interesting about this series is you do get so many different perspectives on this war that's going on, and I feel like that can kind of also transition us well in to talking about Katara, because she is someone that has been, all the men leave her village to go to war. She's happened to be, the only waterbender, has nobody to teach her about this thing that's going on, that's, that she has this power. And there's a certain level of responsibility. She very much gets compared to like the mom-like character, I would say, with a lot of people, where she has to be like almost overly nurturing at time, but also she's very opinionated about how people need to be doing things her way a lot of the time, which I think she slowly softens from, because she's almost overly opinionated for sometimes early on, because I think that she also, similar to her brother, feels that she has to be a leader in some sense. How do you guys feel about her as a character?
I definitely get that vibe that she is supposed to be the mom friend of their group, based just on the social dynamics of them, her and Sokka being the only two. They were besides the super old people that were left behind, they were amongst the oldest of the kids. They were the oldest of the kids. Sokka was in charge of, like, I guess, training the younger kids, and Katara was basically just the mom figure.
Yep.
And it is definitely, I'm going to say it's heartbreaking a lot, because there's a lot of stuff about their initial things that are heartbreaking.
Yeah.
That they have the responsibility of their water tribe pretty closely nestled onto their shoulders, since the older folks can't really fight, and
Yeah.
she is the only waterbender. It's if it isn't Sokka, who is probably I want to say the strongest warrior that's there at the moment, but if everybody else left, then it really is just her and Sokka protecting the tribe until they come back. And that's a lot of responsibility, is making sure that nothing happens to the tribe while their dad is gone.
And
Yeah.
I feel like that's a huge piece of it, is like her personality of kind of like taking in their group and then being like kind of like this is what we're doing and this is how we're doing it, is her being left with her brother in the tribe and kind of being like, this is what's happening, this is what we're doing, and this is how we're protecting the tribe. I feel like that transitions very easily into how she reacts to the gang. And
Oh, yeah.
Like having that like, this is what I'm responsible for. Maybe not even necessarily like, I know that she is portrayed as that like mom figure. But I feel like it's more of just like that responsible figure of like, I can't be the kid because I need to make sure you guys are all okay, kind of thing.
Especially with a brother like she has, there's a certain level that she feels like she needs to be the mature one in the group. Because when you have a brother like that, somebody needs to be,
That's fair.
I mean, he tries, but
Now, to be fair,
Mhm.
to give Sokka credit he's due, if you
Oh,
remember
yeah.
in like the first episodes, like he's fully embraced this warrior aspect. He goes to war as the Fire Nation shows up on their doorstep.
Yeah.
And he keeps this attitude of I have to fight and I have to protect. And you see this probably till about episode 4 and 5.
Would that be around the
When-
Kyoshi Warriors?
Yeah, it'll be around the Kyoshi Warriors and around when they make it to Omashu.
Mhm.
And you see, like, and even episode 6, Imprisoned, when they go to the earthbending prison. Like Katara's standing up doing her own thing, and you see Sokka in a way kind of let up off those reins a bit.
Yep.
And you don't like he's not this. He quickly goes from being a two-dimensional, it's my job to protect the village, to my job to protect that's my sister, to there's more going on here. Let's go do all of this. He becomes more present. And,
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see that shift early on, and it becomes much more apparent beyond season 1, especially with if we've all finished season 1,
Yep.
with Katara picking up, finding a master, a teacher bending, and can whoop Sokka up one side and down the other easily. Yeah, it's interesting to see Sokka deal with that dynamic, and it's interesting to see him come into his own that way.
Sokka is a very interesting character because he is played for comedic relief a lot, but he does have like this arc of feeling left behind. He wants to be this warrior because that's what's expected of the men of that tribe. And and he does have a lot of progression, he like a ton, especially towards the end of the season as well, when he goes and finds one of the men from his tribe that puts him on a trial. But one thing that I really like about Sokka that is also played up for comedic relief a lot, that I like about him, is everyone else around him has these powers, but he is like, I'm a man of science. He is such a skeptic of anything supernatural, and sometimes it's played up like, dude, you're literally seeing Aang go to the spirit like realm or whatever. And like, come on, there's some things going on here. It's right there. But the way that he's also like with the fortune teller, he's like, that's stupid. No, like volcano exploding. I don't care what she said. Like, so he also plays the realist for being how goofy he is, which is a really fun trait for him that I don't think gets brought up enough.
I do think it's really funny that he can be surrounded by like just elements, like just the benders for all of them, and he's just like, you're a weirdo.
Yeah.
that's weird. I don't know
You're
what
the
doing.
weird one, not me. That is a fun aspect of him, though, because it's explored differently in Korra with non-benders, but in this, it's kind of like, nah, y'all are weird for being able to bend. Which, I mean, what he grew up with was one person being able to bend in his village, so it's his weird sister that he probably doesn't want to be seen with,
She's a witch.
Pretty much, yeah. Which, I mean, you think about it, any normal person would be like, dude, I got powers. I'm the coolest person on the block. But, it's an interesting way of going that direction. So what do you guys think about Sokka, since we're kind of on him? Do we have any other opinions on him? Because I feel like there's one other kind of main character that we have.
part of me feels for Sokka, a big part of me,
Mhm.
because it's the same as with Katara. He was left behind, and especially given the cultural norms of the water tribes, they've basically like, hey, you're the man of the house now. We're gonna go leave, and it's gonna be just you. And it feels a little bit like he doesn't, almost like he can't lean on other people initially. He's very like, I don't want to say independent because he does, because he's comedic relief. He goes through a lot of goofy moments,
Yeah.
but he still has that weight of like, I'm supposed to be protecting people, and he's older, so he's got that older brother like, hey, this is my job.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like the power dynamic between him and Katara, like almost like they're going back and forth with like who's going to be in charge and like this is how we're doing it, and that dynamic goes back and forth a lot more in all seasons, but like especially in season 1 where it's like they're almost like fighting for power.
Yeah.
Of like who's in charge and what they're doing.
That's
Yeah.
very true.
The amount of I say the amount of times like it comes up multiple times. I think it only came up twice where it's like, we should fly. No, we should probably walk.
Yeah.
Um,
and
a lot
I
of
like
the
that
time.
he is I like that he's very rational about the first time that he's going up on Appa. Like he had the right response. Because you have to imagine, this is a world where he's never been further off the ground than he can jump. And he is now on the back of this weird animal he's never seen flying through the air. I would be freaking out too. Proper response on his part.
Or like
Basically, like if somebody
you
comes down with a dragon.
Right?
know, he's just like outvoted. Because Aang's always going on Katara's side.
Right.
So poor guy is always outvoted.
So, I did say I feel like that there's another main character in this season, and that's got to be Prince Zuko. He's like the other side of the show, in my opinion, for a lot of it, and he's a lot of people's favorite character. Maybe not because of season 1, but because of the series as a whole. He definitely is like a amazing character progression type of character, voiced by Dante Bosco, which always helps, you know. So,
Oh yeah.
initial reactions to kind of the end of the first season reactions. Pancake, how did you feel about Zuko? Because he's probably the most complicated character of season 1.
Zuko, I can't pinpoint how I feel about him. I like him as a character. I love his character. I love the development that's going on. I love his relationship that is going on with Aang, where it's like, I hate you, but I need you alive type deal. Like, it's really weird to see, especially towards the end of. I almost wonder, because he has never. No, wait. Did he say he needed him alive? I'm getting episodes mixed up. Someone said they needed him alive. I forget if it was.
I don't know if he necessarily needed him alive, but it probably. I mean, it is a kids show, so they probably threw that in there for ratings and stuff like
For
that.
ratings,
It's like,
yeah.
go and bring him to me. Make sure he's alive, so we're staying PG. You know, like,
No, sir. No, sir. It is actually based on lore why they have to keep him alive.
okay.
Because the if he dies, the Avatar is reborn.
The cycle,
Exactly.
right?
And they
Yeah.
they have to do the search all over again.
That's true.
So, but like
I think that was explained by General Zhao. Was when one of the
Mhm.
times that he captured Aang, he mentions that he can't have him dying on him, and he's like, I'm going to
Yeah.
keep you alive in this cell, but only just barely.
Yeah.
barely.
So
Yeah.
one of the things I think that's interesting about Zuko as a character is obviously he's banished, you know, pretty much, you know, like he can redeem himself by basically going and solving something that most people at this point consider to be myth. Go and like capture the Avatar, something that hasn't been seen in 100 years, for all we know, isn't coming back. So it's basically we're giving you a task so we'll never have to see you again kind of thing. You gotta think that's where his mind was at, but he was still out there looking like obsessively for Aang. The chances that the Avatar actually came back at that time are so funny to think about, because you know Uncle is like, all right, I'm down for the easy life now because he's never going to find this Avatar. I get to relax in retirement, essentially.
You think babysitting Zuko is retirement? Is the
I
reason?
said, hold on a
compared
minute.
to sieging bossing safe for like over like what 200 days or something like
I mean,
it-
considering what it was
Hey.
like before they found the Avatar.
yeah
Like before they found the Avatar, it was just, oh hey, I'm gonna take a cruise. I'm gonna beat the crap out of everybody.
my nephew might be a
yeah.
little shit from time to time, but you know we'll be all right and everything. I can handle him.
I
He'll
am
be
the
fine.
Avatar.
Yeah, but now Aang's in the picture.
Right.
He's like, well,
He's like, oh man, now
Damn.
my job just actually got hard again.
I do not see that in Iroh. I see him like remember, Iroh loves Zuko.
Oh yeah,
I
He
do
is
see that a
he
lot.
is he is literally that mentor to like Zuko's like he's trying to help Zuko through his pain, through all of this. So I think the fact that Aang did show up, I mean, we probably go even as so far as saying it was a prayer answered for Uncle.
yeah,
And because Zuko is so adamant and so determined to prove himself. And we see that a bit more as the series continues.
yes.
But
definitely.
and we definitely see a lot of growth between Zuko and Iroh. But yeah, like
Well, Iroh
in-
is like almost another one of those characters that's almost just background comedic in the first season, which
yeah,
is totally fine for him because it gave the other characters plenty of time to get that initial growth that they needed because he's an older man. He doesn't need the amount of growth like his nephew does. So, you know, but he definitely is a lot of people's favorite Uncle Iroh. But so
mhm.
how do you guys feel about the end of like the first season, like especially with Zuko with that one because it has quite a bit of a shift for him.
that is a good question. I am now going to process this question. Timely manner,
It is a
because-
very difficult question. So could I have you like recap? Because the last thing I remember from because I finished season 1,
Mhm.
and the last thing I remember was besides the fact that General Zhao tried to have Zuko assassinated pretty much.
Yeah.
And then they went off and he got defeated up at the Northern Water Tribe.
Yep.
You know, after Sokka's girlfriend turns into the moon.
Yeah. That is-
Casual Sunday, Sokka's girlfriend, just something happened to.
that's tough,
What
bud.
do you mean your girlfriend doesn't turn into the moon on the regular?
Yeah. What do you mean?
Which okay, so that actually brings up a really interesting point, and that is the spiritual side of Avatar, which I'm like I'm not as big on it, but how do you guys feel about the more spiritual mythology kind of like that side of the series that's dived into?
In my opinion, currently, it hasn't been delved deep enough in season 1 for me to really have a solid opinion. It was brought up once
There.
in
Yeah.
the Spirit World episode, and then it was brought up again in the season finales.
Well, that's one thing
And then-
about the spirit world in Avatar is although you see it a good few times, it's always kind of a weird Alice in Wonderland, Feywild-ish type of like thing. You're never gonna completely understand it because that's kind of half of the point, I feel like. But it's interesting to have this in this very grounded magic system that is very martial arts heavy and everything, for it to be linked with something as spiritual as this idea of the Avatar and the spirit world. So it's almost in contrast of the series in some ways.
I actually think that it ties together really nicely.
Mhm.
I don't have a whole lot of knowledge about all of the mythologies that take place in the universe because a lot of them are combined and shifted slightly, for copyright reasons and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
But I feel like the fact that the spiritual world it's definitely a lot closer in their world than it really is in ours. In their
Yeah.
world, it's like you have Sokka, who is very like, if I can't see it, it don't exist.
Yeah. I relate to that so much with him as a character, and I love it.
And I think that I just think that the spirituality of it ties in so nicely with all of the different bending and just it really hasn't been explored enough in season 1 yet for
Yeah.
me to speak on it too much. I love it so much.
So, how does everyone else feel about like the spiritual, the spirit worldly kind of side of Avatar and that side of things?
Like, I think it's really beautiful because it's like in the world, like especially more so in season 1, where it's like there, and like most people, maybe not Sokka, acknowledge that it's there, but it's almost like it's like so far out of reach that they don't, like they're just like, it's a spirit world, it's fine.
Yeah.
I'm just not gonna touch it.
Yeah, that is almost a very old traditional way of spirituality. Is a way of explaining things that you don't understand. It's easy to say, bad things are happening to the village. It's that creature that's out in the woods. But for here, the creature's actually real. So it is kind of fun having it like closer to the real world, but still kind of being unexplained. It's not like people are worshiping the spirit world necessarily. It's more like they're living alongside it.
Yeah.
It's just a part of life. It's just one of the aspects of life is just, oh hey, yeah, there are spirits.
Well, and
that's
it's
how it
interesting
is.
because you have some characters that are a little bit more in tune with it, like Uncle Iroh. I mean, it straight up says that, he has that connection. And then it even circles back around towards the end of the series with General Zhao. So there are people that are more in tune with it. But for the most part, most people see it like myth or like just something that's very specific to where they're currently at. Like it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of communication where the other villages are knowing about, a spirit going and destroying this like town.
And I feel like the spirit world, like for people who are searching for it, like General Zhao is like one of those people that's more like it, like searching for this thing, and they'll find what they're searching for, kind of thing. Like it's like if you're kind of just like right, like it's a spirit world, that kind of just stays. It's the spirit world. But if you're looking for it, like it kind of comes to you, kind of thing. Find that very fascinating.
So
Yeah.
General Zhao is an interesting character as well because I feel like he's the first like real villain that we have because Zuko was like a little too sympathetic in some ways to really call him a villain. He's more like that kid that's just on the wrong path currently. So with General Zhao, how do you guys feel about him as a villain? Also, very interestingly voiced by the guy that does Draco Malfoy's dad in the Harry Potter series. So it's a cool little bit of knowledge for anybody that didn't know that for this series. So yes, we're allowed to be very angry at him. He has been a bad man in many things.
I think
He's
it
a
was
very power hungry. Oh, I'm sorry.
no, you're good. Go for it.
I was just gonna say he's just a very power hungry man. Like I
Mhm.
mean, definitely climb the ladder, the Fire Nation ladders to get what he wants and do. He'll do any means necessary to get that.
Oh yeah.
I think it's funny that he's beefing with a 16-year-old.
Yeah,
I think that's probably the funniest part about his character is he's this serious, like he's supposed to be serious and villainous, and he's straight up beefing with a 16-year-old.
Like having an Agni Kai with them, like he's like, I hate this kid so much. I may be like a general, someone that's supposed to be showing military prowess, but this 16-year-old is just getting on my nerves.
My boss hates you, so I hate you.
There's a lot of that in this series, though. That's going to happen when you have a series that's based around younger characters, because it's like, this is a little bit weird, man. You've got to be at least in your 40s if you're just letting a 16-year-old get under your skin like this.
Okay. Lore
And that-
time.
Lore time. Okay.
time.
Oh, I'd love to hear the lore.
Okay, so remember, Zuko's the one who initiated the Agni Kai. It wasn't Zhao, and I don't believe you all have seen the story of his first Agni Kai yet.
They have.
Zuko's?
They have. That's
That's
included in the first season.
That's the season 1. That's when he has to fight his dad, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Well-
it was Zuko speaking up
Yep.
at a military meeting,
Yep.
And here he is yet again speaking up to military personnel, getting in the way of their job. So he initiates the Agni Kai out of his youthful anger. And
Oh,
Zhao's like, okay, as your elder, I'll accept. And I will teach you the lesson that you failed to learn from your father.
Yeah, but he's just still doing it out of anger, though. He's a very angry kind of man.
He does it out of anger, but he is doing it from a place of what he views as superiority.
Yeah.
So that is when Zuko actually beats him. That is when the power dynamic begins to shift.
Yeah.
And so that's when you see more of Zhao's desperation come forth.
Yeah.
Because he is not as powerful or in as much control as he believes he is. And there is that with Zuko now being an equal who has beat him, that's one more obstacle he has to get through. And it's just interesting to see that dynamic come from Commander Zhao.
Yeah.
Is he? Oh yeah. Is he a jerk? Absolutely. Is he a villain in every sense of the word? But
well, that's an interesting thing about this first season is that, like, almost every character does have to overcome an adult at some point. You know, you have that with Zuko having to overcome him. But you also have that with Katara having to prove that she's just as good at being Bender, even though she's a girl. You know, that's her having to overcome another adult telling them no or that they're not good enough. You know, you have. Well, I feel like with Sokka it's a little more self-contained, and he's having to overcome his own feelings of that, but he still has to. So there's a lot of that in this season. I feel like so it's interesting that Zuko and Zhao were kind of connected through that because it just felt kind of weird. He's still a 16-year-old kid to me. It just
You also got to put into perspective that as well as like General Zhao is like he's trying to get the Avatar too, and like Zuko's in his way. So like he's also like, get out of my way, kid. I'm trying to do my job. You know, like so like then it becomes more of a like you could tell like a beef. Like it's like he's just getting in my way and I'm trying to do this. And so I get the glory and power and I need this kid out of my way.
Oh yeah.
I also find this very funny though, because they initially sent Zuko on that mission to get the Avatar, and it's very obvious with the fact that Zhao quickly becomes involved when the Avatar actually shows up, that they were never intending for Zuko to do it in the first place. That was definitely a stay out of my hair, here's an impossible mission. And as soon as the Avatar actually showed up, that was when Zhao started finally, like, that was when he came in and was like beefing with Zuko over trying to get the Avatar. That's to me where it was very obvious that they had never intended for Zuko to actually do it. Well, and the fact that he's still involved
is like one thing over an overarching thing is, you know, and even if you delve into any of the graphic novels or anything like that, Zuko's an embarrassment to, like, you know, his father, and you know, and so they don't want that embarrassment back, and so like that's also a dynamic factoring into this of just like, yeah, he may have found him, but we don't want him to get him because we don't want him back,
right?
You know,
which is really sad. Because I see the difference between like Zuko and like Sokka, Katara, and Aang. And like, yeah, Zuko is really hot-headed, but there is an aspect of maturity and experience that he has that you can see that the other three don't just yet.
Yeah.
And it's really subtle right now because they're very much portraying him as like, right now he's kind of an antagonist for this first season, but you still see like, and that he also gets underestimated a lot.
It's also,
when you notice his interactions.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, I feel bad. It's also just seeing that dynamic of like you talking about seeing the difference in like maturity and like what he may have been going through differently is seeing the difference between someone who has loving parents or had loving mentors growing up versus someone who didn't, or may have only had one, and so like that is amazing how these writers did that in the show, of just you know, and I have to, you know, I'll stand on a pedestal for Zuko. Like, he's my favorite.
Well, it is interesting seeing two different sides of that coin with Sokka and Zuko, of just wanting their father's love, but one that like has his father's love, he just wants to be seen as a man. The other is trying to earn it back, you know, like
Mhm.
like Zuko really just wants Mark Hamill to love him very badly. Like
And it's even though I haven't seen the later seasons yet, I've definitely seen a little bit of spoilers, and you can even tell during his interactions with his, like, just the flashbacks you've seen and the information you're given about how Zuko interacted with his father before, you know that that's never going to happen.
Yeah.
It's very obvious that whatever Zuko does, it's never going to be enough. And it's very, like, you definitely see him as the scapegoat to his sister's golden child complex.
Well, and you do have such an interesting mentor with Uncle being there, because you get those hints throughout this first season of, you know, of him sieging. I'm trying to siege boss things. Say the status of the type of you know, warrior that he is known to be, like this legendary figure. But we're seeing him as this goofy older guy that doesn't want to fight if he can avoid it, and it makes you really get this sense that he's like, I just don't want my nephew to have those hardships that I had of fighting in war and just the hate that comes with that. Like, he really wants to be like, just because you have this lineage and who you are doesn't mean that you have to go along with it per se.
Right, but legendary warrior that is also a family embarrassment.
Yeah, this is true.
That's the thing. Like he laid siege to Ba Sing Se, got through the
And
wall at one
failed.
point, and no, he got through the wall.
Yeah.
He actually got through the wall, and then was forced to retreat because of what happened. Spoilers.
Yeah, can't
And
put that
so,
one out there.
So yeah, like failure, and because of what happened, Zuko's dad, who is the younger brother, you know, usurped the throne from Iroh. Iroh was supposed to be the Fire Lord.
Yep, and it
It
is,
does make a lot of sense.
but he is such an
Mhm.
interesting character though, because he is. So you slowly start to see some people in the series that are counter to their culture. You have Iroh that's not wanting what he, you know, what is typical of the Fire Nation, but you also have Aang's first firebending teacher, who also is just like, I don't, I only see this firebending as destruction. It's so you have two very good examples of being in a culture that is violent and is war driven and turning your back on it essentially. So, how do you guys feel about that side of those two characters in specific?
Of Iroh and Zuko.
No, Iroh, and also the firebending teacher that Aang had that didn't want to teach firebending.
I think that sets up for hey, firebending can be really dangerous. And I think that it's a little odd that right now they're saying that it's only the Fire Nation bending that can be dangerous. But I think it's more about you need a certain level of control. And right now, especially, like, it's all hinted into why Aang has to wait to learn firebending. They go into it between what Uncle Iroh says to Zuko when he's giving him tips on his firebending and on the fighting, and even the teacher that Aang goes to initially when he's like, "Hey, you're not ready." It all goes into that firebending can be really dangerous. And I'm not a super big fan of the fact that they're so heavy on how dangerous it is right now,
Mhm.
but I understand why they're doing it that way.
Well, you also have to think that one of the reasons it is dangerous is because the culture that it is being developed under. because you look at the way that each of the bending styles are, they're based after a martial arts style. The firebending is a very aggressive martial arts style that it is based after, and that is one of the reasons that I see that it is seen as so dangerous. It's not defensive at all. It is strike first. It's Cobra Kai. Like, that's firebending because of the culture that it is being developed under. Any thoughts on that, guys?
I mean, I definitely agree with you that it's the cultural aspect of it that makes it so dangerous. But right in season 1, they don't really get into the fact that that's why it's dangerous.
Mhm.
It's right now they're very like, hey, fire is really bad right now, and we're super early into the series. So
Yeah.
obviously, as we get later, I know there's going to be more nuance in it. But it's so hard to speak on it right now just because we're only getting that like scratched surface of it.
It does have a very Slytherins are all bad vibe to it at the first season.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, which I believe is necessary because this is episode 16 that we're talking about. There's only 20 episodes season 1. You're this close to the season 1 finale. They're not going to want to twist your perception of the Fire Nation that close to the finale.
True.
So you don't want to be like, oh, maybe I feel some, semblance of, connection or pity for firebenders doing this. No, as of right now, firebenders are bad.
Yep.
And
they
and
do
notice,
still get into that a little bit with what happened to Zuko with his dad. They get into that like maybe they're not all bad kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things you see this ideology with Jet and his band of rebels willing to do anything they can to get the Fire Nation out of their land, out of their town, to the point of flooding a town.
Yep.
It's I mean, bad guys for 100 years, been around that long. It's pretty easy to just clump them all together and say all of them are bad.
There are a lot of shades of gray that go with when you're dealing with war. And Jet is a great example of that. And also the old man that rats out the Earthbender, and I think it was like episode 3 or 4, it might have been a little bit later than that rats him out because, maybe the Firebenders will take mercy on me if I rat out, one of my own people. So like the struggles of war bring out very interesting shades in people, and a kid show exploring that, especially at that time, there really wasn't a lot beyond maybe anime that was diving into those types of things for what is essentially a kid show.
Yeah, and thank goodness it continues that through the rest of the series.
Oh yeah,
and, for sure. And so, which is interesting that I think it's by episode 8 that we begin to feel this, where the whole Winter Solstice Part 1 and Part 2, where you deal with the spirit world, and then he has to make it to the Fire Nation temple.
Yeah.
That's when you begin to feel the weight of everything. That this isn't just children being children. And because I'm looking at the episode list right now, because everything after the Winter Solstice is dealing specifically with aspects of different parts of the war, to Katara trying to get that waterbending scroll, to them dealing with Jet, the rival groups of refugees having to find a place to stay. It begins to take this weight of, it goes from penguin sledding to you need to learn the elements by the summer.
And thankfully the series does keep those lighter notes still in there, but it really starts to find that nice blend to where you're like, okay, this is a world that's got discussions that are worth having. You still have the funny jokes, but this is why this far after the seasons have came out, we're still talking about it, because it does have these themes that are worth talking about.
Because it's one of the very few shows, especially more kid-based shows, that it isn't black and white, good guy, bad guy. There's so many gray areas where it's like, no, they're not bad guys. Like, Jet's not a bad guy.
Yeah.
He's just trying to get, his he thinks it's his best way to get his job done. Essentially, it's like these gray areas And not many shows, especially that time when it came out, explored that. Like kids shows were black and white,
Yep.
good bad guy. Like it wasn't no.
And
This
there are
person
plenty
will do
of
that
there
thing.
are well there are plenty of like the villainy kind of characters that are black and white, but there are enough like layered characters that it mostly masks them out. Like for you get like three like characters that are like the main cast that are well developed, and then you have one. I don't know what was the character that George Takei played, where he was like the warden. Like he was very
yeah.
he was very mustache really. You will not get out of here. Oh my.
I mean, but just like in real life, there are evil people. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
It's just there's so much more gray than there is black and white.
So, are there any characters that we haven't mentioned that really just stick out to you in season ones as some of your guys' favorites? We've talked about the main cast and kind of like a lot of the more subcast that's like right under them. But are there any characters like maybe just from one episode or something, or ones that just don't pop up as often that you really enjoy?
Is June in season one?
And which character?
Brenda.
June.
Yes.
Is it? I wonder if it's the same person that I was thinking of, because it was. What is June? Just out of curiosity.
June rides the what is it? It's a mole.
Oh, is it the
The
mole?
mole
Is it the
thing?
badger mole?
Which
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
the mole
yeah,
wolf
definitely
thing,
stands
which
out.
is so funny with Iroh too, because that's like when you get that little, it's like, okay, he's a little bit of a hound dog.
Oh yeah, I remember that. No, I was really hoping that they brought her back. So I'm like, there's no way. Like, there's something going on with her. Like she's like this apex hunter that was able to track down the Avatar in like a couple hours flat. There's no way they're not gonna bring her back.
Yeah.
She's one of those
No,
characters that were
no.
created because the older crowd needed someone to cosplay as. But yeah, I do enjoy it. Any other characters that you guys can think of off the top of your head that like are some of your favorites from the first season?
Avatar Roku.
Ooh, Roku's a good one.
Avatar Roku. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, because like I cannot wait to see the live action Winter Solstice episodes just to see who is playing Roku.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I want to see, it's just the weight of how he delivers the news to Aang, and just reminds Aang that, like, hey, you've done this before.
Yeah.
Like using that emphasis to break his, where he's been so alone as the last Airbender. He's like, you're not, because you've done this before. We've done this before. And there was just so much weight to that line, and there's just so
What?
much to that. And so,
Oh yeah. Any other characters? Because I've got a few fun ones that I enjoy from the first season.
I mean,
I think you
obviously, Suki, like she's the bomb.
Yeah. Yeah, and
I can't
it's,
remember who that is.
the
Kyoshi
Kyoshi Warrior.
Oh.
Which, I mean, you only get her in the one, is he only in one episode in the first season?
yeah.
I think
Yeah, because I know she comes back for sure. But, yeah, she's very good in the first season, but I really enjoy her as the series goes on even more. But
Yeah.
no one's going to bring up King Boomy, though. Come on. King
King
Boomy. King Boomy is one of my favorite characters throughout Avatar. Boomy is those characters I love throwing into D&D because it's so funny just to have a completely unhinged old man.
Because we only have one interaction so far with Boomy, so that will change as they get further into the series, and you'll be like, okay. So yeah.
This guy
Yeah.
knows how to party.
I mean, he does. Come on. When he disrobes, he has this Master Roshi moment where he's been hunched over and old looking the whole time, and he's like, nope, here we go. I'm ripped as all hell. Oh, did we lose? We lost somebody. Come on. If she doesn't, I swear. We're going to have to make sure that she's not doing that whenever we're live streaming the D&D games or the tabletop game. All right, we'll wait for her for a second.
minor uh-oh.
Yeah, it's gonna happen from time to time.
Yay.
Yeah.
Hooray! Anyways, intermission. How's everyone doing today?
Right.
Just to make conversation, you know. I enjoy me some small talk.
Doing fantastic.
I'm glad someone had the courage to respond. Thank you.
Like,
Long day at
like-
work, but I'm here.
like I picked up like a sense of sarcasm when she said fantastic. Let's dive into that a little bit.
Yeah.
Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, no, I don't
Long
have my
day at
notebook
work
on me
today.
currently.
I have to tell you, work was fantastic today.
Sounds like it wasn't.
Now,
I don't blame you.
now, when you say fantastic, it sounds like you mean it sucked.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was some heavy sarcasm involved. Then that, like, just very like heavy on that. Yeah.
But yeah, but yeah, so King Boomy, obviously one of my favorites, but the Cabbage Guy, comedic gold, guys.
Cabbage Guy. He only shows up.
Like the Cabbage Guy has made his rounds. Like there is a Cabbage Guy in Baldur's Gate, and it makes me so happy.
The fact that they're
There's a
getting
Cabbage Guy
the
in Baldur's
voice
Gate?
actor, the fact that they're getting the voice actor to play the Cabbage Guy in the live action is so fun to me.
amazing.
Oh, that's amazing. That is
So
Uh,
amazing.
Like,
I'm
I'm so pumped for that. Like, he's a fun character. Oh, the first season, did we get the Earthbending hippies? Is that season 1?
I think so.
No,
wait. No, it's
Nope.
not. It's
Is that season 2?
season 2. Yeah, season 2.
I don't
Okay.
Earthbending and Earthbending and Firebending. Well, Firebending got explored towards the end. Earthbending wasn't really developed in season 1.
Mm-hmm.
Waterbending got really explored. Obviously, air got really explored as the last Airbender, and fire was in the end. But Earthbending was never really touched on, minus the
Haru.
few
Yeah,
episodes that was in
Yeah.
with King Boomy and
King Boomy
Town.
and Haru. Yeah,
Yeah.
like that was it. That's because when you go into season 2 is book Earth, so that will go nuts, and you will meet
Yeah.
everyone's favorite Earthbender.
Yeah.
that season.
The boulder.
Is it
The
feelings about hurting a small child? But are you scared? The boulder is over his feelings.
The boulder is
Listen.
so great.
I love that one clip with the boulder. I have been spoiled a little bit. I know who's gonna show up during book 2.
Okay.
Very excited to watch that season. I'm probably gonna watch them tonight, to be honest, because
What am
in
I-
the campaign I'm between fire and earth.
I have been
So I
to
should
so
probably
many
know something about Earth.
conventions. I've been to so many comic book conventions, and there's just these guys that'll dress up like the boulder, and they are always just a treat.
Dude, that's awesome.
Oh, like you see a guy dressed up as the boulder, you know it's going to be a good time.
That's great. Not so. So, what are you guys thinking about playing for the campaign?
I'm torn between fire and earth. I know.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't want to interrupt Pancake.
No, you
I
can go
guess
ahead.
Her phone died, so she will not be coming back.
I was gonna say, as long as it doesn't impede anybody and no one else, love to do a firebender.
Okay. Well, that,
Be a firebender then. I'll do earth. I was already leaning towards earth. I'll be earth.
Nice. Let's go.
I wouldn't shake your hand, but
A little
Thank you.
hard.
little hard. All right, yeah. I guess. Congratulations, it is settled. I am an earthbender.
There we go. I
messed with-
managed mine for you. That's what I'm here for.
Listen. I want to bring up firebending. The one thing that was like, ooh, I kind of want to do firebending was the one scene with Uncle Iroh
Mhm.
with him where he lightning bended. Because I completely forgot there was sub elements in each bending.
See, the thing is with the lightning bending, there is some different aspects that you'll find out later about that. So
Yeah, it is.
I-
It's pretty sweet.
yeah, it
It's
is.
really awesome.
Now, I will say that there's probably just too many episodes to really even go over each of them because we are needing to wrap up here soon. I do feel like this is one of those series that should be fairly simple to adapt to live action if you just are at least somewhat of a fan of it. I know that you guys probably have feelings about the a first movie, but how are you feeling going into this live action for Netflix? Do you have faith in it? Like, how are you feeling about it currently?
Reserved optimism.
Yeah,
Yes, exactly.
it seems like they took notes from the movie at least to be like, don't do that. You know, like there's at least that level of attention, I feel like.
What-
Move
what-
one time out.
Oh, that's gonna always bother me. Like you have earthbenders that could could take down a mountain, and these guys are like, all right, then we got 8 of us, we gotta move a pebble.
Let's get
What-
it, gang. I haven't
what-
seen the movie.
Yeah, what movie? Do not watch the movie Pancake. There is no movie. No movie exists.
No movie
Um,
exists. All right.
yeah,
Don't tell
the
them
movie does not
that.
exist.
I need a video. I need a video
No.
going over that with them.
No, the movie does not exist.
All right. I'll
there-
watch the movie just for you.
Oh god, that
There
would be
is
a fun
there,
review.
there are no movies because it's not like the whole fandom voted for this movie to get a Razzie. Like it's the movie does not exist, sir.
There is
It's a-
there is no Avatar movie in Boston.
There is no
Say.
war in Boston.
Is this a red pill, blue pill situation? I can either live my life in happiness or I can watch the movie and hate everything.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly what it is.
I mean, it's literally. I mean, if you want to be one of us, you're more than welcome to join, but you will be.
Let me.
Yeah, it's not
I'll
good.
ponder it.
You will regret it. I'll bet that you will have no joy of it. You will regret it.
It's a
Lose
choice.
that time in your life that you will never get back.
Well, the good news is I have this thing called being a teenager, and I can at least laugh at myself when I'm older and be like, "Man, I was so stupid."
It is a very bad movie. I do feel like the live action series though has a bit more promise to it. I know that the creators did walk away from it for better or for worse. I mean, it is good because it means that they got their own studio now, that they're going to be doing like new shows and animated movies and so on and so forth. So that part is great, but I still think this live action has a lot of promise to it, at least feeling more faithful than the movie did. But we are about at time to wrap things up. So with the 3 of you that are left, let's just go, if it's even possible to do, can you give like season 1 specifically a review between 1 and 10, like 10 being like the greatest thing that's ever came out? Pancake, since you're new, I don't want you to be tarnished by the other people that have had time to ponder on this for a long time. Like going into it, what do you rate season 1 of Avatar: The Last Airbender?
I was actually gonna open up with that. I was gonna be like, "Guys, do not hate me, because I know you guys have like watched the series however many times, once, twice, 17. I don't know. 17 is just a good number. In my opinion, really good season, really good world building. Definitely ended it off on a good cliffhanger with them referencing. Well, not even referencing. They flat out showed the sister, which
Yeah.
I don't know how many people that would have roped in. For me, it roped me in because she got dropped a few times. Overall, the start was really rough, in my opinion. Very hard to get past those first few episodes. I definitely found it a struggle. But once they definitely got their footing, I was hooked. Like, I would be doing stuff with like my friends, and like nothing would be going on, and I would like turn on Avatar, and I'd be like, "Well, guess I'm doing this now." So it roped me in really well, which I do give credit for.
Mhm.
Definitely not a perfect 10 though, unfortunately, as much as I would love to give it a 10.
So
Solid 8 in my opinion.
a solid 8. Okay.
Solid 8.
All right.
Without seeing the rest of the season.
Yeah. So let's say Justice. Where are you at with season 1 specifically?
It's a little hard for me because out of the 3 seasons, season 3 is my favorite.
Okay.
And so it's hard for me, because I will say season 1 is probably my least favorite. It does have very good world building. It's a very good introduction to the world, the characters. But it's that kind of like goofiness it's like that goofiness that they added to it, kind of like almost trying to get their target audience and trying to like figure that out kind of thing, or kind of like any first season of any show.
Yeah.
They're trying to get their bearing. And so that being said, it's my least favorite, and for me, it's got like a solid 6.57-ish on my scale.
Yeah. Okay, and so we have Hime back in here, right?
I'm right here.
Okay, so we are giving our thoughts on season 1, like giving it a review between 1 and 10.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Ah.
I know, right? That's what you came back to. Welcome back.
Oh, that's so hard. I really enjoyed it. I'd probably give it a 9 out of 10. The only reason I don't give it like that last one is just it's very comforty, but it still has an aspect of like episode continuity that if you're like if you don't have a whole lot of spoons, it's not necessarily the best idea, but it's still really good. So I want to give it a 9 out of 10.
Okay, a 9 out of 10 is a very high score. I mean, I'm one of those people that is very harsh on stuff. So, but Ben, how about yourself? Season 1.
As someone who has seen the whole series, and season 1 does the job of laying a foundation. Thankfully, the writers and animators take it and build something incredible off of it. I would probably give it a 7 out of 10, because it, like I said, it catches you, but the foundation it lays for season 2 and season 3, you look back on it and you're like, it's worth it. It's worth the early slog until it picks up, until it gets that serious note to it, and it's more than worth it.
I for myself, I actually put it at the 6.5 for myself, because it does feel a little hard to get people through the first few episodes, but it does like stick the landing pretty well at the end. I enjoy it a lot, but if I wasn't specifically going in to not only review this but get ready for the tabletop game that we're going to be running about, I would probably just start at season 2, because like it is laying the foundation. But if you already know the foundation, there's a few episodes you might go back and grab, but I don't find myself nearly as much as the later two watching through it again. So that's why it kind of gets a 6.5 out of me, because it's a part of the series, but it's not the part that I'm like, oh, this was what I loved. So for me, it gets a 6.5, which still an amazing season and everything, but I'm a very harsh critic when it comes to like my shows and movies and things of that. So, a 6.5 is good. Anything above a 50 to me is still watchable.
It's passing. It's better than nothing.
Passing, exactly. So are there any other notes that you guys would like to say about the series before we wrap it up?
Negative, Ghost Rider.
Negative? Okay. Well, I know that there's a lot of things that goes on in the first season that we didn't even get to touch. We could be dissecting this season for hours if we really want to, but I know that people have lives and probably don't want to sit here forever doing that and have other things to do. So just a reminder that next month on the Artificer Alley channel, on pretty much everything you can find it on, we will be having a start of a Avatar: The Last Airbender tabletop campaign, where if you're a fan of things like D&D, well, we're going to try and make it as good with Avatar. So there's an official system that we're going to be running. Beyond that, let's just go around so everyone has a chance to say who they are and if there's anywhere that you would like for people to find you. We'll start with Pancake, because you're once again above my head. So Pancake.
Hey. Again, let me just get it out of the way. Thank you for having me again.
Of course.
After I was here like 2 days ago, so
yeah, for our Power
Pleasure to be
World
back
for the Power World reaction
Power
video.
and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pleasure to be back. Pleasure to talk about things I love. Y'all can find me at pancake1_5 on Twitch and YouTube. That's where I do most of my silly shenanigans.
Shenanigans.
And my shenanigans, I'm gonna be streaming a lot more soon, hopefully. In video
Oh,
editing.
Power World comes out at midnight, bud. We're gonna be streaming a lot.
I'm buying it at midnight, I guess.
Well, 3 o'clock, so probably not, because it's the
Not staying up till 3 o'clock for that.
midnight Cali time. I'll be up, but okay. So, Justice, your turn.
So right now, you can't find me anywhere except here or wherever
Fair
you guys
enough.
will be.
We can help you get all of that stuff set up before the campaign
Yes.
starts if you would like. But is there anything you would like to give a shout out to? Maybe a movie, anything you're playing currently, you know, a book you might be reading?
Hey, just because I'll die on this hill if you haven't played Baldur's Gate. Best game ever.
I'll be streaming it on Sundays.
I'll die on
Yeah,
that
you gotta
hill.
get that going.
Yep. That'll be starting this. If you're free this Sunday, I'll be playing Pancake, and anyone else that would like to jump in for that one, that's going to be a fun time.
But other than that, yeah, that's about it.
All right, so let's go to Hinehime. Give yourself
I'm
a
in a-
shout out.
I'm in a very similar, like right now I'm not doing anything. Right now I'm not doing much of anything besides just the streams and stuff. And playing Baldur's Gate 3 because it's all I've been doing since
It's an
I bought
obsession.
it on my PS5. Yeah, it's been pretty bad.
We'll do some discussions on that here soon.
Oh, I'm having a blast with Baldur's Gate. It is definitely, if you don't have it, you should definitely get it at some point. And if and when they introduce cross-platform gaming, I will definitely play with you.
For sure. All right, and Ben, even though they cannot see you, you're still here.
Yes.
Give yourself a shout out.
Well, just thank you. No, I'm gonna give a shout out to you, dude. Thank you for
Much
all you've been
appreciated.
doing. Thank you for wanting to run games for Artificer Alley, and thank you guys for wanting to play for Artificer Alley. It means a lot. I cannot wait to see you guys explore this system, this tabletop system, the characters you're going to make, and the stories you're going to tell. Like it's going to be good. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm very much looking forward to getting, because you're going to be our first guest on this, so people are going to get to be very familiar with you here soon. But you're also saying you might run our game that starts in March. I believe is one.
We're talking about it.
talking
We're
about
talking
it.
about it.
Possibly,
Yeah, we have
possibly Power Rangers, or what was the other one you had said?
Kids on Brooms, possibly.
Okay. Now, I'll 100% be a player in either one of those, but, anybody that's watching, if you know either of those systems and would like to weigh in on which one you would rather see, we'd love to get the feedback, whether it be Kick, Twitch, YouTube, the Facebook, wherever you want to tell us that we're on all of those, and just let us know which one that you would like to see, because, he's a very experienced game master. He can run what you guys want to see.
Yeah, just let us know. We have a whole roster of game masters,
This is
and
very true.
we're wanting to explore all these other game systems outside of just 5th edition
Very much.
D&D. So we're wanting to just see which system works best for the stories that our players want to tell.
Yep, I'm just the most vain out of all of our game masters. I like to show my face a lot, Look
Hey,
at me.
We have a few that are like, yeah, I have
Yeah.
no problem being on camera. I'm like, cool, let's get a camera, and then
Oh, yeah.
you don't see them for a while.
Yeah, that's making anything. It doesn't matter if it's content creation or if it's it doesn't matter. People will say that they're all on board, but we're about to start seeing the ones that are really all about it, because we're going to have plenty of opportunities for people to put themselves out there if they would like to. And even if you're somebody that's watching this and you're interested potentially on being on some of our streams, we will be looking for guests to be on just like one episode. I can't promise you a full-time spot, but we want a chance for the community to also put themselves out there, because this is a chance for everyone to get exposure that they're looking for. We're trying to have a community. It's not just all about one person or even just the company itself. We just want to express and show the world the fun of tabletop gaming and being a nerd in general.
We can't offer a full-time
being
spot
a
on this campaign. Maybe the next.
Right. Yeah. Well, we can put somebody on we'll do some one shots. We'll also have people that'll guest on, and if people really like them and they mesh and vibe well, we'll be like, hey, we'd love to have you for a 2-month campaign, because that's what we're planning to do is 2 months at a time. So the Avatar one will be running for 2 months. We're going to continue to review the seasons. We're going to review the live action. Me and Pancake are going to review the movie.
I'm so sorry, Pancake.
He's already agreed to it. You can't take this from me.
I can't take it back. I can't take it back. Once I say anything, I'm a man of my word. Why do you think I don't have a bunch of hair anymore? I shaved it. Fun fact.
You need
I
to
shaved
call
my
in
head.
sick. You need to call in sick and just let them know, like, hey, yeah, I got the crud, can't do it. Sick day.
I got Bovid. Yep.
Oh, God.
I got the COVID. I'm no
COVID
longer.
cows.
I am no longer an airbender. I have COVID.
Well, I would like to thank everyone that took the time to sit down and watch us jib-jab about Avatar The Last Airbender. Be sure to make sure that you're following, subscribing, whatever you're doing on whatever platform. Make sure that you can continue to follow us, because we have a lot more fun content coming here on the Inner Geekdom in the future. And thank you to all of my guests that I had on today. We will definitely be seeing